Ladies and gentlemen, it's Brock Bowen here, and you might also know me as the Life Terran, but today I've actually brought on a gentleman who we've been friends online for a little while. We had a call the other day, and I love what he's up to. Just to read a bit of an intro here too. Kristin Jacobsen, he's also known as Freddy. He's the owner and Chief Executive Officer of a company called Next Gen Financial Services, which is a preeminent financial services company. Products and services have helped Gen Y professionals and executives all over the world and young money masters. He's also built an online community for young entrepreneurs, network marketers, and business owners. So there's a lot more stuff there I could share. You can find out more of that. But I love that he grew up on a mango and passion fruit farm in North Queensland. Now lives in his beautiful dream apartment on the rivers of in Brisbane, Australia, and a beautiful place. I love that area, right? But a big difference coming from a mango farm to now living in a city. I think when we first talked about it, you used to live up near Townsville somewhere, Bowen or somewhere, didn't you?
Yeah. I used to live in Townsville, and I moved down to Brisbane in October 2014. Thanks for having me, Brock. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's so good to chat. Often we have these conversations with people, and a lot of the stuff I'm into is, the consciousness stuff, the health and wellness, things like that. But I want to bring you on because I think another thing, one in my own personal journey, but for a lot of us, I think it's so important for us to have that diligence in financial literacy. So it's such a cool thing to do. And actually, when I have respect for people, when I've had a conversation, have some respect for people, I want to get them on here and obviously share with the audience and ask you some different things about it. So it's cool. So what's the go right now? How are you finding Brisbane after that whole growing up? Yeah.
Brisbane is amazing. It opened up so many doors, and as soon as I moved down to Brisbane, one thing led to another, which led to another thing, and it all sort of connected really well. I mean, there was a lot of challenges when I did move to Brisbane, like one, for example, not really knowing many people, two, not really knowing, the entrepreneur scene down here. But I've been able to work my way through it, and I've met some amazing people, and there's so many opportunities available, which I don't believe would have been available if I stayed in Townsville, So
yeah, for sure. There's something about the proximity of being in places. Like, now I'm about to move from Cairns to the Sunshine Coast, and I essentially did the opposite of what you did. I moved from a big city where everyone had that story of being busy and everything, all different things. I go, I need to just get out of the city for a bit. So I moved from Sydney up to Cairns and essentially did the opposite of what you've grown up with, which is so different for me. It almost feels so slow and it's challenging to get things done, and it has a mix of that, but it also has the beauty of the waterfalls and the magic. You can see even behind me how green it is. And yeah, it's an interesting contemplation. So say I always like to speak to that because we get a lot of young guys and a lot of entrepreneurs watching this. A lot of people look at that, they see someone make a bold decision, whether it's to move overseas or move into a different location. Now, when you went through that process, it's fun because I talk a lot about momentum. It's one of my biggest conversations. So when you went through that process, what were some of the challenges and how did you personally overcome that? Before we get into the financial stuff, I just want to talk about some of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I started my business in Townsville, Next Gen Financial Services, and I started that in 2012. And what I saw was, I was heavily reliant on the mining industry, like a lot of people in Townsville. And what I ended up doing was actually buying an existing business down here in Brisbane. And when you buy an existing business, especially in the financial industry, what can happen is sometimes there's not really a close relationship with the clients that you are now looking after. And I was literally, it took about 2 or 3 weeks of a delay for the business to change over to my company. And that delayed a lot of things and a lot of plans, and unfortunately cash flow was an absolute shocker at the time, right? So it cost you a lot of money to move and relocate. And then literally the first week that I had this business, the valuation of the business actually dropped by about $17,500 because a few clients left. And so I'm sitting there going, oh my God, what have I done? I'm stressing out because I don't know anyone in the entrepreneur seat down here. I was sort of doubting myself, so it was a huge move. But I made the decision maybe about 3 months before to move down and purchase a business and get started down here. But through that, it was at the time I didn't feel like I was gonna be able to do it. But I'm now here 2 years later. So
I love seeing people break through those things, because it is that thing. A lot of people see the success or the luck or the different things of being an entrepreneur, but it has its challenge. They say it like at least 30 to 50% of entrepreneurs have experienced depression, anxiety, overwhelm, doubt. I would say it's a lot higher. I would say it's probably closer to 100% at times, unless you're just born Superman. And it's a fun thing though to overcome. I wouldn't have it any other way. It's the greatest lifestyle ever, helping each other and contributing to things. But what were some of the key things you did? Because all of a sudden you've had this experience where you're like, whoa, I've come down here. I've gone boldly into my path. I've taken a risk. I was comfortable in Townsville, but I was uncomfortable. You're probably dissatisfied being there, when you're like a big guy in a small town. And then you move down to Brisbane.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then you move to Brisbane, all of a sudden you're like a whole new world. So what were some of the things you're doing on a daily basis to really get your mindset and your ability to overcome that?
Yeah, well, what I was doing, and I've done this for a while, is I was actually journaling, right? So every morning I'd go down to the coffee shop, I'd journal, what am I grateful for? What are the things that I need to do today that'll make the biggest difference? And, I made so many mistakes as well. Like I thought like, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to print off like 500 flyers for my business, like, because we run competitions and that, and this was to win a trip to Hong Kong. Yeah, wow. And I thought, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to print 500 of these bad boys, and I'm going to deliver them myself around the area just to get a bit of a community awareness. And I thought, all right, people will like click the link and everything. And anyway, I delivered these 500 flyers myself, and I had 2 clicks on the and not one opt-in. So I'm like sitting there going, what do I need to do? But so what I ended up doing is, I ended up just contacting a lot of the clients that we were now looking after, and we added services onto. It was an existing mortgage book, right? So most people that have dealt with mortgage brokers, all they really deal with is like, oh, let's refinance your home to a better rate. Yep. Whereas I decided to contact them and go, okay, let's get a process and let's get a strategy to actually pay off your home loan faster and also manage cash flow and really understand like what your actual goals are. So that's when I started to get a bit of traction. And then I started to connect with, in meetup.com. I ended up connecting with some of the guys from the entourage, and that sort of opened up the gateway and the floodgates, basically. So it was just about getting around and meeting people and just getting to know people and working out what's going on. So, yeah.
I like it. I often hear that because you think it's so important in business to have a clear strategy, clear targets, everything like that. But you can't do it without people. Like in any business, you can't do it without people. And I always look at like, some of the leaders that we all admire, what they do, they always put people first. It's an interesting one to see. And that sense of community, it's cool that you engage in obviously the Brisbane community, entourage, all the different things. It makes a different thing. So with regards to finances and financial planning, what are some of the biggest mistakes you're seeing clients make? And what
good question. And surprisingly, it's not what investments you choose. It's not your investment strategy. It's none of that. It's 2 things. It comes down to 2 things. The first one is the mindset that you have around your money and your finances. So, lack of goals. We sit down with people for the first session, financial roadmap session, and we ask them, what is important about money to you? Like why does it all matter? And the second thing is, what are your tangible financial goals that require time, money, and planning and to achieve? And most people get caught up in, like being either limited or saying a goal that doesn't actually really resonate with them. So that's the first mistake, just having a wrong psychology and wrong mindset towards money and thinking that you have to follow a certain path to be financially successful. And the second thing, very simple, is cash flow and budgeting. Like, and I know it's one of these things that, you know, unless you're keeping your finger on the pulse all the time, it's not really something that people do. But that cash flow and those two things are the things that sort of hold people back. And it's such a simple thing to get right, or to fix. But most people think that, you know, they got to have this like newest, latest and greatest investment strategy, or they got to go and buy a property, or you know, become an entrepreneur and make lots of money first, and then sort out the finances. Whereas 80% of the problem comes from those two things. And the thing that frustrates me a lot about the financial planning industry is that they're the two things that most advisors don't even talk about. So
yeah, right. Yeah. So they're missing out the biggest part of the thing. Because whenever I looked at people that trade stocks, the thing of that is it's 80% mindset, probably more. When I used to run 100-kilometer marathons, it's 80% mindset. You can build up your fitness, but it literally is when it comes to that time where your knees hurt so much, you don't want to move another step. Some part of you clicks in and you just go, well, I'm just going to keep going. I'm just going to take one more step. It's kind of like that as an entrepreneur. It's all these different avenues come together. It's fascinating to me. I look at my life like the highs and the lows. Things, you know, when you shift from, I was a young entrepreneur. I think we talked about this a little bit on the phone, where at 13, I was on a trip and my parents are there and they returned one trolley, or I saw someone return one trolley and they got a 25-cent return. Yeah, a quarter in America. So I went, well, what happens if I get 30 or 40 of them? And I return all these trolleys. I'm like, look, Dad, I got money. And he goes, oh, you're not allowed to do that. And there's so many things that you can do with your tax, with your resources, with everything. But everyone's got a fixed idea of how the world's supposed to be. And I guess essentially a big part of your job is breaking through people what they think they have to do. Because a lot of our programming around money comes from how our parents dealt with money. And imagine for 100%. You coming from a farm, it would be a completely different thing from, you know, mango farming, selling things. You would have learned a lot about business. So it's interesting contemplating that, you know, what was it like as a kid and what are some of the skills you felt like you picked up then?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I owe all of my entrepreneur and business ownership mindset to my father. And from a very young age, you know, my father was a teacher, like when I was growing up until the age of 10, I believe. But, you know, growing up on the farm, he had, you know, he was a teacher, a high school teacher, taught maths and science. Yeah. And my mother was actually a executive assistant to one of the insurance agents back in the day, because there was no such thing as financial planning back in the 90s pretty much. So I saw Dad, you know, he would work really hard. He started selling mango and passion fruits at the markets, and then started on selling like things that would complement mango and passion fruit. So like ice cream and that to add on, you know, extra products and services. So my dad always had this mindset of being a business owner. And anyway, long story short, he connected with some of the guys that Mum was working with. He saw what these guys were doing in terms of in the finance industry, and he jumped all in. And then when I was 14, he started his own financial planning business. And I saw the absolute grind that he went through. And so what I basically learned on the farm and through that, like growing up, was one, like not having a job mentality where, because I saw Mum working for, you know, someone 9 to 5, and I saw Dad, you know, being the entrepreneur, the business owner, and having that mindset. And I saw the two in comparison, and, you know, either one was just as risky as the other. Yeah. So I sort of sat there and I'm like, but one thing that may have sort of held me back a little bit when I, you know, first started my business was, you know, I saw Dad working very long hours, really, really hard, and, you know, making a lot of money, but really like being really fulfilled, probably not. So that's sort of why I built my business around making sure that everyone is chasing fulfillment rather than more money. And so, yeah, I mean, I learned how to work hard, how to be, like I remember trying to sell my dad and my uncle like all these little spare parts and all the stuff that I could find around the farm for like $1 and trying to hustle them. So I always grew up around business and around finance, and that's sort of so growing up on the farm was a great thing. Yeah.
Have they still got it? Did they
No,
keep the farm?
we are. Well, I moved when I was in year 3, I think. Year 3 or 4. I can't remember exactly, but we moved to a small suburb, and but every time I go back to Townsville, I actually swing by because it's a lot of my memories come from there, and that's where I sort of fundamentally learnt, how to connect with people, how to work hard, and how to actually push through some of the challenges that being on a farm can bring up. So
probably the hardest business to be in would be farming, I imagine. There's so many elements that can go. Like with our online businesses, with working in consulting or financial planning, all these different things, there's a lot of elements we can control. But I know with farming, there's so many variables. It's super challenging. My previous business, I used to sell organic fruits and vegetables in Sydney. So I used to have relationships with farmers and just great people. Particularly, there was ones that loved it, and people like your dad. Like one guy was a farmer. They had a farm that was worth huge amounts of money, and he would go and pick the oranges, and his brother would go and pick the oranges. And he already had a $10 million home in Mossman in Sydney. He didn't need the money. He just loved the farming because it reminded him, probably like yourself, of when he was a boy and he used to go out there. And I even did it a couple of times where I went out when he was away, and I actually just did it where I went and picked the fruit and prepared it for people and went through that whole process. And for me, there was definitely an element of fulfillment in it, where you started something. A lot of times in the employee world, you're doing one thing. And as an entrepreneur, you definitely outsource and do other things, but there's a sense of fulfillment that you see someone start here and you take them on a journey to here. And that's one of the things I love. If I think about your dad's journey, picking the fruit, turning it sometimes into ice cream, or did he do the mango sorbet? Did you ever do that one where you put it through a little? No. Not yet. That one's a great business. I saw that at Early Beach. So
I'm pretty sure he was looking at doing it though. I'm sure he would have. I remember something very vague about him looking at doing the frozen mango thing, but I think someone was already doing it in the markets or something like that. But yeah, so actually good. A lot of it. And you can liken farming a lot to your finances as well. Like people think like, you plant seeds as in investments, right? And, tomorrow it grows, but it takes time and there's a process and you can't shortcut that process. So, it's a lot of similar things to, personal finances and growing a crop essentially. So
I just like that long-term game. So many people are in for the next 2 weeks. Like so many people I meet, they just want to make a chunk of cash now, be it in consulting or coaching, whatever it is. It's all like, let's sell a high-end program. Let's do it as quickly as possible. And then it's like, beep, 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 beep. It's not a consistent thing. Whereas farming, you've kind of got your vegetables and fruits. Vegetables, you put them in the ground. 3 months later, you reap the benefits. And then there's also the fruits. They can take 5 to 10 years, sometimes more. Nuts, things like that. It's an interesting contemplation. I always like when people can use those metaphors. One of my clients at the moment, she's the second fastest downhill skateboarder. And I always get her to communicate the metaphors of business because she works with businesses and helps people with health and so forth. And she's always talking about bringing it back to skateboarding. And when it makes it tangible for people, I love that stuff. It's really cool. I want to talk more about fulfillment. Because it's something that I've been talking about, the art of fulfillment, the science of fulfillment, just talking about that for a while. And I've seen some other leaders start to talk about it more recently because it's something that's often missed. In a world of peak performance in business, it's all about, making the next dollar, making the next buck, smashing it out, all these things. And because our parents and because these people in our life have worked so hard, we're in a different world now. It's not like it was 100 years ago where guys were going to war and you just to put food on the table. A lot of the guys have to work 18 hours a day. Doesn't mean you don't have to do that sometimes. I know I do. I'm not sure about yourself. But it's a different thing. We are in a different chapter of the world. So I want to talk to that more. So what does fulfillment mean to you? Did you contemplate that for yourself?
Fulfillment means having... Yeah, it's a good question. because there's so many different aspects to it. But fulfillment, basically, I mean, there's three things, right, that I believe. There's health, there's relationships, and then there's like finances, right?
Yep.
So having good quality relationships that are strong, having good quality health, which is, having strong health, and then having the finances to back all that up. So all three of those things, like, to me, that's what's called wealth, and being wealthy equals fulfillment. So obviously, and I get caught up in this all the time, thinking like trying to grind and trying to get everything done and getting caught up and not actually being grateful for everything in my life. Like I think about like all these problems that I have, but then I realize, well, hang on a minute, like in the big scheme of things, these are not big problems, and I should be very grateful. So I think fulfillment is almost like, as Tony Robbins says, it's an art form. It's being able to stay grateful, really keep clear on what your outcomes are, and being able to have that fulfillment before you even get there. So that's, to me, that's what fulfillment means.
I've been looking at it this way too. Say you already hit, like, whatever you want to do in your business, say it's, $100,000 a month revenue or $1 million a month revenue, or you want to hit a net wealth of $100 million. I've been contemplating that and going, well, how would I feel if I was already doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I might add on to that. A lot of the time when we do these financial roadmap sessions, so these are like a 90-minute deep dive into everything around the psychology behind your money, exactly what your tangible goals are, and it's almost like a stripping bare of everything that's going on right now and seeing exactly where you're at. And a lot of people, go, okay, what's a goal that requires time, money, and effort in order for you to achieve, like a big financial goal? And they'll go, oh, I want to have $1 million in the bank. And you go, okay, why? And they can't even explain why they want that $1 million. So what we do with finances is go, exactly what do you want out of your life in terms of, your health, your relationships, your experiences, where you be in, 5, 10, 15 years. And then we put numbers around that and get that exact amount.
Nice. Because
then that means it's called purpose-driven wealth rather than just wealth or money, like dollars for dollars' sake. So, some people, another example is, someone will say, oh, I want $1 million income per year. And it's like, okay, well, what are you going to spend that money on? And then they can't even, they won't, it's just this number that's set, and it's just literally a number, and there's no backing behind it. So I think, like, in terms of fulfillment and finance, like really understanding exactly what it is that you're trying to achieve and what you want, and how does the numbers fit to and align with that. So you may find that you only need about, $500,000 a year to really have the ultimate lifestyle that you want and deserve. So then set a plan around what you need in order, whether it's your business or investments or what your strategy is to actually get there. Because otherwise you're sort of just putting it in the middle of it, like up in the air, and there's no real purpose or drive behind it. So yeah, it's very prominent within entrepreneurs. They want to make it big, but it's like, well, financially, how big do you want it and why? Does that make a big impact for generations, or does that mean that you're making a huge, like, what is the number? What is the significance behind that number?
I like that. It's good to get that clarity, because I have seen it. My previous business partner, his parents are Chinese, and I remember with them, he came over to Australia with nothing. You hear about these stories of immigrants, and he would eat the tomato sauce and sugar packets. He was broke, and he would come in and eat that. That's kind of how he get his calories for the day, while he'd work as much as he could to get the family in a good place. Now their net wealth is about $5 million, but he still is chasing that next thing. It's like he's chasing something because he just wants something to get the next amount of money. I think it's something that's become so prominent. In a world where you see the 6-figure coach, the 7-figure coach, the 8-figure coach, where money's the focus. It's one of the reasons I want to get on the line with you, because purpose-driven wealth is something that makes sense to me. You know, thinking about our legacy, our vision, our purpose, attaching a goal or a meaning to it makes a whole lot more sense. So let's talk about...
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, there's just one more thing. I was just like, you know, for some people, you know, the 6 human needs around like what Tony Robbins talks about, you know, like having a boatload of money is probably a significance, like fulfilling the need of significance, right?
Yeah.
So if that's the need, then, you know, go for it. But you need to have a strategy as well behind that, because otherwise you're just yourself.
Yeah, otherwise just writing numbers down for the sake of it.
Yeah.
But it's fun. And it's fun too to think about. Like, I know one guy started a company called the 5 Hour Energy Drink. He never anticipated he'd be a billionaire. It's just like he got this idea and he did it. Now he gives most of the money away to awesome, innovative projects. That's what I love about it more too. When I speak to clients, I sit there, well, one, how much would you like to create a month? What do you want your net wealth to be? But also start to contemplate as well, how much would you like to give every month? You know, that whole thing. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Like whatever it is, whatever your purpose you want to give it away and bless people with. Yeah, it's an interesting one to look at it. I've seen seen some interesting stories of people around all these different things. Kristy, my partner, her stepdad's been really successful, so I've learned a lot of stuff off him. And I also learned a lot of stuff off my previous partner's dad. He's had 30 businesses. All of them were successful except the one that he did in his daughter's name. Pretty good track record. He has, you know, his lifestyle. He just set it up around the lifestyle, which I like, is that he'd have a place on the Gold Coast, the Sunshine Coast, and Sydney. And each place would have all his clothes there just to make it easy for himself. He'd have a car or two there at each one. And just always has plenty of cash sitting there. If you go there in the safe, there's probably 10, 20 grand cash in there. So it's just very clear about everything. And that's what works for him. And I like it. As soon as you get the clarity what it is, you can find out the strategy and get it done, which is super cool. The next I want to talk about daily financial habits. I want to talk about other habits too, but daily financial habits. So what should someone, especially someone who's come from an employee to an entrepreneurial mindset? Because I know you're a big fan of network marketing, which feels like it's a bit of a bridge as well into your traditional business. Great tool with personal development and so many elements attached to it. But say someone's right now, like, are the people you're mostly speaking to, are they employees or entrepreneurs or both?
So a lot of the people that I do talk with are, you know, in full-time positions. With other entrepreneurs, like if you're in a startup and you don't have a regular like income coming from that business, it's very hard to sort of plan like your personal finances around that, obviously, because it's very lumpy and you're not going to be able to like do much with. So what we do is, you know, when you've got like a business or like an income stream, right? The personal finance, the money that goes into your personal finances, we help people organize, simplify and manage that to maximize the benefit, whether that be put the money back into the business and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, we deal with a lot of full-time employees around the sales professional space, but also we like to serve people that are in a network marketing business purely because they've got the right mindset and they've got the ability to actually increase their cash flow. And that's one thing that I love about network marketing is that it gives anyone with minimal risk, minimal payment in to have unlimited income potential. They just got to work. You know, that's the caveat. It's network, not net sit there and try and expect money to come in. You know, but yeah, that's why we do have a skew towards looking after the network marketing and sales professionals. And we do have a few clients that are business owners, but those business owners are paying themselves a regular income and that. So
yeah, nice. It's fun just to look like how to shift gears from employee into entrepreneurial mindset. It's always a funny one. You know, I've worked with different clients around the world. And what I've often found is if people were corporate and they might work 40 to 60 hours a week, they would get in a business and work 40 to 60 hours a week. They would do their day almost the same structure. And there wasn't really a flow to it. It was more like there was a structure, rigid way of doing life and doing business. And then they just kind of got the same results and they could never quite go through that ceiling of what their previous income had been.
Absolutely.
Which is an interesting one. Yep. Okay.
I was just going to say, in terms of daily habits, with personal finance. So one thing, if you are in business for yourself, like you need to pay yourself like you would be paying yourself as an employee. The reason being is that if you are in a position where you're not paying yourself enough for your personal finances, what you're going to end up doing, and this is what I see a lot of the time, is that you start to make stupid business decisions purely to try and make more money for your personal finances, right? So you got to think of business and your personal finances as two separate things, right? This business here is going to provide an income stream and is going to hopefully like grow in value, right, for you to then sell later on, right? But that's serving you as like you personally and what you want to achieve out of your life. Whereas what I find is like most entrepreneurs when they're first starting is getting all the finances mixed together, right? So daily habits is literally like on a regular basis paying yourself from your business. The second thing I would say is tracking your cash flow. And see, here's the thing, like most people, unless it's a very simple system, it won't happen, right? So we use certain financial tools. One of them is Money Brilliant, which is one of the best cash flow tracking apps I've seen in a very long time. But on a weekly basis, just literally checking in with yourself and doing that sort of stuff. And then, we make things very, very simple so that it doesn't really require that much effort, because if it's more complex, the likelihood of you following through or making it a daily habit is not high. There's not a high percentage of that happening. So in terms of daily habits, just doing the fundamentals around keeping a cash flow system in check for yourself. And then daily habits around, if you are investing, like having a daily habit of not actually keep looking at the markets all day, every day, because you're going to drive yourself nuts. Yeah. Just especially around this time, where there's so much volatility happening, but you've got maybe 10, 20 years for that game plan to pan out. If you're going to watch it every single day, you're going to drive yourself crazy and you're going to create a lot of stress for yourself. So
I'd say it's interesting even to talk to that, because a lot of these habits that are financial translate to everything else. Like I've done it, I have to do it now as a habit where I do a lot of stuff, using tools on my phone, using different things. I'm on phone calls, I'm using Facebook, I'm using email, blah, blah, blah. And you're accessible everywhere, which is one of the coolest things about this whole lifestyle. It's also one of the biggest frustrations too. So I'm looking at things now where I'm like, have that focus where I actually just schedule when I'm going to do things. And also make sure I'm not checking notifications on my Facebook all the time, or not checking things all the time, but actually being diligent to schedule those certain things. It's interesting when you want to be so freestyling things, but also finding out consistently what works. I like it.
Absolutely. We're a big believer in systems. So setting up systems once so that you don't really have to do too much. And sort of, you can be like, if you're building your wealth through business, right, then obviously you're going to have to like follow the business principles and the daily habits of business principles and that. But one thing I should add is, if you're in debt right now and you've got personal debt, I would say a daily habit for you would be to actually, and this is going to sound counterintuitive, but actually be grateful for that debt. So every single time, because one thing I notice is that a lot of people feel really guilty or feel really horrible around the area of debt, right? Because it's sort of this thing that's weighing them down, and in their mind think it's something that's restricting them from financial success. But what I do want to point out is that rather than thinking about the negative on debt, thinking of the positive about it. So thinking, okay, well, sometime in the past, someone had the confidence in me to lend me money, and I'm now thankful because I'm paying that debt back to them.
Yeah, I like it.
So actually switching the mindset around that, and it's one of these things that is a very huge problem here in Australia in terms of personal debt. But once you start to get thankful for that debt and actually switch the mindset around debt, it gets easier and you stress less about it. And
Yeah.
that's probably more important.
Oh, that's huge, right? Like, 'cause I start to frame it now past expenditure. Yeah, it sounds more like a business
Yes.
term. Debt, apparently the original definition of debt's a death grip. Because if you didn't, like right now, you can go and get $100,000 on credit cards and not pay it. It's not that big a deal. You'll mess up your credit rating. Feels like death. It's got that emotion attached to it. But previously, hundreds of years ago, if you didn't pay that, you'd either be in jail or you'd have your head chopped off. Then get hung off a noose. And
Yeah.
I'm always contemplating that too. Like I've seen a few posts lately about what it was like to be a man 100 years ago, with war and, even how hard your dad worked with the farm and the heat and all the different things. Sometimes contemplate, because everyone works so hard for us, have we become a bit soft in terms of, how we work and how we show up and do different things? It's interesting. A lot of people paint this illusion, even the 4-hour work week. Remember Tim Ferriss writing that one, that you could work 4 hours a week and everything would be done for you. But I think the key thing on that was, how do you use your time effectively? I think the key thing on that for me was actually thinking, well, rather than just going and being a millionaire, what do I actually require to create the dream lifestyle? It's something that I just shifted things for me a lot, changed my whole mindset, reading books like that. Just went, cool, if I want to live my life in a particular way, all of a sudden I can change it, then it can work in a different way, which is really awesome. I loved it. It's cool. So daily habits, though, I want to look at that too as a daily keystone habits for you on a just a daily level as an entrepreneur, not just finances. The things, what are you doing? You already talked about journaling, getting gratitude. Hit me with 5. Because they're the things I love to see too. Sometimes I come up with a different one and always seeing all the different things that work for you. So what are the things that you're doing when you get up in the morning, when you're working on things, when you get flustered, when there's too much on? A lot of people experience a bit of overwhelm at this time, this chapter leading up before the break over Christmas. So what are some of your keystone habits personally?
For me, yeah. So for me personally, I don't do this religiously. I probably do it about 80% of the time, so 20% of the time, sometimes I miss it completely. But what I like to do is normally I get up at about 5:10 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
I will do Tony Robbins' breathing pattern where you get some oxygen in and get that going. And then I'll train in the morning, because I've found that training in the morning, number one, most people aren't doing anything in the morning anyway, so I won't get disrupted or disturbed. I used to train in the afternoon, but just something comes up in the afternoon. So I decided to start training in the morning. So I'll train 6 till 7, and then I'll get home. I'll be playing my pump up tunes, and then really, just setting myself up for the day, as in like thinking about what it is. So, I've got 1 year goals written down, and I go, okay, what do I need to do in order to get closer to that goal? And then while I'm walking to work, if I do walk to the office, I'm going through every single thing that I'm grateful for, and sort of like forward thinking. So I'll think about the fact that I'm speaking to thousands of people around the area of personal finance, because I really want to be able to make a mass impact to a lot of people, not just a select few. So I'll picture myself doing that. I'll picture myself, going on holidays and taking my mother on holidays, and the personal things that I want to be doing 5 years from now. And so by the time I get to work, I'm ready to rock and roll. And then I will check in with my team for a 10-minute, just quick, what are you doing what are you doing today? Is there any issues? And then one thing that we're grateful for. And we do that day in, day out. Mm-hmm. And that way, I think that 10 minutes with your team is so important, because you don't have to solve anything in that 10 minutes. You just got to be like checking in with the team. So that's a typical setup for the day for me. And then before I go to bed, I'll do some stretching and that before the workout the next day. So that's what I'm doing at the moment, and I'm liking it. So I'll keep doing it.
Yeah, I like it. It's just fun finding out the different habits that work, what it is. I know that if I get up and run or move or do a workout in the morning, my energy levels are better throughout the day. And yeah, always like contemplating what that first chapter is. It's brilliant. So we just got time. I think we're about to end up we're almost out of time, hey? Just looking at it. So
Yeah.
you got to keep going. But basically this one, what's the biggest challenge you've overcome so far personally? And then what's the biggest challenge you've overcome for a client? Let's talk about you personally. And let's also talk about a client success story, because it's fun. Because a lot of people are like, yeah, it's great for people if you're an employee. It's great for people if you're already doing well in business, but I'm here, or whatever they happen to be. So I want to hear like one of the things you've overcome, and also a client success story. One of your favorite ones.
All right. So one of the biggest ones that biggest challenges that I've ever overcome was having a personal family member of mine very close to me. For 3 years, I'm going through major depression and alcoholism, and having to live with that individual, and seeing that go downhill, and having to look after that person. And that was in between the time that I was like at uni and going through changes in myself, and putting meaning behind that, and having to sort of afterwards, after the fact, actually put a new meaning and a new story behind that, because the original story was disempowering me.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of limiting beliefs around that, but I've changed that story, and it took a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
Even today, it's still not 100% there, but I've made a lot of progress in that.
Mm-hmm.
And a client story. So one of the biggest things that come to mind is I also had a family member, and when I first started in my business, so we organize insurances, personal insurances for clients, right? Yep. Because that's the one thing that can really throw a spanner in the works. If if something personally happens to you and you don't have adequate insurance or a backup plan, mm-hmm. things go south really quick. Mm-hmm. So one of the challenges I overcome was, this particular person did not want to get insurance because she didn't believe in having the insurance. Mm-hmm. As most people sort of have a negative connotation, I guess. But I put it to her around getting that, and anyway, the deal come through, and about I think it was about 8 months later.
Yeah,
this particular person got diagnosed with breast cancer.
Wow,
and that trauma insurance paid out about a six-figure sum, and without having convinced that person to have that insurance, literally you would have to be asking friends and family and fundraising and all that sort of stuff. So that was a big one for me, because that was the first insurance claim, mm-hmm. and it was one of the first ones that I ever written. Mm-hmm. And it was for a family member.
Yeah.
So
right.
that to me just really opened my eyes as to the impact that financial advisors can have in someone's life. And so that's a huge win. I mean, we've got guys that we've helped save 20% of their total income when they've never been able to save anything, and go from 3 credit cards down to 0 within like a 6-month period. And that's all great, but it's really the impact of that particular challenge that we overcome that really stands out. So
it's those ones. That's what I love the most. Like you said, you said it on the phone the other day, purpose-driven wealth. Those things are what light you up. Like, it's nice to see people have more money and better investments, but the ones that just make your heart melt are when you see someone's life transform, because of all the different things. When you just said, what, this is important. And I would ask you that, how much do you trust your intuition in your business? Is that a big part of how you make decisions?
Me? Absolutely.
Because with that
probably
family
a bit too much.
Even with that family member, for instance, it's uncomfortable. A lot of people don't realize that. You're the expert. You're helping people through decisions that are uncomfortable. You're helping them go from here to here on something that they don't want to do. They've resisted their whole life. It's an interesting one to contemplate as we go through these things, how to lead people and things. But I also look at, just maybe think about cancer too, how common it is now. And I also wonder if we continue, like if you look at the Sikhs, the guys that wear the big turbans on their head, their financial investment, what they all do, as a collective, as a community, they all put 10% of their money into a collective fund, and they start businesses just for fun to make $1 million to give the money away. They'll open up a recording studio just for fun. And so I'm curious as a community, obviously I reach out to a lot of people that I feel to connect with. And I'm always curious that as a collective, as we do more of those things, often we've outsourced insurance to other business owners. Often we outsource work and we do different things. But if you look at the Chinese culture, rather than borrowing money off the banks, say a family member wants to buy a house, well, the money's there and zero interest. And so they have a different wealth thing. So I'm always contemplating different cultures and what works. And also as a legacy, how can we do it better? I think in terms of my own life, I basically I like to prove that I can live like a millionaire without being one. And I've been able to prove that. And now I've kind of gone, well, Christy's about to beat me to being a millionaire. So I like to do it first, just for fun, just when you think about that purpose-driven thing. I don't think it's an ego thing or anything. I think it's just more of it's just a fun thing to do. And for me as a man too, it's kind of the change in the guard. My dad's already a multi-millionaire with different things. He had property in Sydney. If you own property in Sydney, it kind of just happens. Boom. But it's kind of that time is, my dad might even be watching this later. Love you, Dad, if you are. My dad's actually joined me I do a network marketing business too that I love. Big fan of the industry. And, with Dad, he's joined that business and it's given him a new sense of purpose, a new sense of engagement. He's doing different things. He's getting healthier in different things. But at a mindset level and as a community, that's one of the things I love the most about it. And also, as my dad's now 71, I'm also contemplating that financially. For me, the why is that I can pay for anything for my family anytime. If for some reason my sister's behind on a mortgage payment, don't worry, I got this. If, for instance, one of my friends just needs that cash, don't worry, I got this. Like that level of wealth is what I look at. The more that we can contribute to our community, for me, that gives me a sense of fulfillment. And for me, I've seen that before with one friend. I used to feed him when he left his 6-figure corporate job and he was filming some stuff for my business for free, about $1,500 an episode. It was normally $1,500 to $3,000 an episode. I'd give him a box of food, organic $100 of produce. But that one box of food actually gave him permission to leave his corporate job. He's like, well, at least I can eat. And all of a sudden he's like, well, at least I can eat. That's all he needed in his belief to change through something, and left his corporate job, left off his tax money for the first 6 to 12 months. And now he films the Dalai Lama and runs around the world with some of the leaders on the planet, and completely different life. And I love that thing where that intuition guides us and you wonder, why did I make that choice? But just knowing that something about it resonated and made a huge difference. So the thing I want to finish on now is, say you have a chance and there's these big events on around the world. I think the biggest gathering worldwide has been about $10 or $20 million. I have to Google it again. Where about 10 or 20 million people got together for a specific purpose. And we talked about purpose-driven wealth. I think it was in Africa. But there's been these huge gatherings. And all of a sudden, you're at a huge gathering. I'm handing you the microphone. You might have your road one like today. You might have a different one. But you want to share a message with the world. When you contemplate your vision, your legacy, and purpose, when you get it out of the day-to-day, but you bring it out into that, what do you want the world to be like in 100 years or 1,000 years? What are some of the things you want to say to people right now?
I would want to say that, and it comes down to really this thing of, time that we've got is on this earth or in our life is finite, right? There's an end date. Mm-hmm. And money is infinite. So money is everywhere and it's in abundance, right? And if there's not enough, they'll just print some more. Mm-hmm. So rather than swapping your time for money, actually break yourself away from swapping time for money and find a way to make money without spending your personal time, so that then you can spend your time doing more of the stuff that you want to do for fun, freedom and fulfillment. Because otherwise, and it's a human tragedy when someone works, the most of their life, never become financially independent and always swap the time for money and then end up dying not really truly living a fulfilled life. So, think about that every time that you're going to work and you're swapping the time like for an hourly, swapping your hours for a dollar rate. Mm-hmm. and really think, am I happy and fulfilled doing what I'm doing? That's the one thing I think is separating the two, because time is the most precious resource that we've got, and money is money. You can make money, you can lose money. There's plenty of money around, but time, that's the one thing that's finite. So, use your time wisely rather than just trying to make a heap of money for the sake of making money and wasting your time.
Totally. I love that message, man. I appreciate you and your time today for sure. I look forward to it. I'm going to be down the Sunshine Coast in December, so I'll make sure we catch up. We're going to learn to surf and do some cool stuff. And
absolutely.
Looking forward to it. There is a webinar tonight. I don't know if I'll get this up in time before it, but I'll post a link to that if you want me to share that as well. Happy to. And where's the best place for people to find you so I can put in here too? If people want to work with you and your team, what's the process?
Absolutely. Well, you can go to my personal website, freddyjaco.com. So that will give you a bit of insight into what we do and how you can connect with us. What I was going to say is anyone that we have a relationship with or a partnership with, our financial roadmap sessions are normally about $465, but if you go through and send me a message and let me know that you've watched this video, we can do that for $97 for your guys.
Awesome.
You're welcome. But freddyjaco.com, or you can look me up on Facebook and connect with me there. But please add me, and I would love to hear what your feedback. If it resonated with you or you got something out of this, please let me know, because that's my juice. I love getting messages from someone that really got something out of this, because that continues to drive me forward and makes me want to do these more. So,
I dig it. I'll give you some right now. Key takeaways for me are this. For me, I've mastered many areas of my life. I've got an ease with money. If I need money, I'll just manifest it. When I'd sold my business, all of a sudden I just need some money. So I'll be like, cool, when I do a $15,000 a week, it's never been that big a deal for me. When I don't judge myself and I just go and have the fun, freedom and fulfillment lifestyle, I go around the planet like a Forrest Gump, having the best time ever, and it shows up. The thing I'm ready to master, and this is going to make sense to everyone, because you want to be a master of every area of your life, because how you do one thing is how you do everything. And the thing that I see the most is, well, let's just bring the simple habits into every area of our life. Whether it's your fitness, your health, your spiritual practices, whatever it happens to be, making time to be present with the people in your life, making time to be present with your partner. Same as, us being present with one another today on this call. And the more that we can do that, it's amazing. And to hear someone that's gone from hearing your family history and what you're doing now, the challenges you've been through and everything, but that real focus on purpose-driven wealth, that was the gold for me. To actually have a purpose. Well, why am I actually making this money? What's the reason behind it? What's the purpose behind it? So I'm not just chasing the rabbit. I'm not just chasing this illusion of what I think I want, but I actually get clear on what did I come here for? What I actually want to do while I'm here on the planet with this time that I'm blessed with. And what's the difference or the impact I truly want to make? So that's what I heard a lot of. That's what came through for me. And I appreciate you, man. It's a great message. It's great to do what you do. And it's fun lifestyle too, hey? It's such a fun lifestyle too, to actually work with clients and see their life transform and all the different elements.
Yeah, absolutely.
Super stoked.
I love when I see them cut off their credit card, man.
Boom. So fun.
That's it. That's the most satisfying part as well.
I went to get a phone this morning. There's a woman there and she had a huge amount of cash on her credit card. $50,000, a previous partner, all the different things. And that's now her story. That all of a sudden becomes part of her identity and all the different things. And that's normal. That's what I'm fascinated about, that is what's normal. And that's what one thing we've got to change is as a society, that debt is an invention that someone did so that people can be controlled. People get controlled by going, well, you need your, whether it's $500, $1,000 or $2,000 a week so you can pay your mortgage, your credit card, so you don't actually get to do what you want, which ultimately quite often feels like slavery. It's not much of a difference really, but you get paid. And then it is a whole nother conversation. We get passionate about that, but how school doesn't prepare us for the world and all those different things. Probably time for another conversation, but I appreciate you, man. I look forward to seeing you soon for surfing, skateboarding, freedom, fun and fulfillment. And I'll see you soon. Boom.
Thanks, bro.